joining us right now in his third decade as national sports columnist from Yahoo Sports, Dan Wetzel, back here in the Rich Eisen Show. Happy New Year, Dan.
Happy New Year to you, Rich. Good to see you.
Same here, pal. So I imagine the story of the college football playoffs so far is, I have an idea what it might be, but I never want to put words in your mouth. Your perspective of the first two rounds of the college football playoffs is what?
Ohio State is a absolute wagon that we thought they could be. Was that your choice?
That is that's it. I mean, and that is no doubt the storyline of the college football playoffs so far. And I was saying before, Dan, to start the show, the text I received more than any other text on New Year's Day, other than wasn't Happy New Year from those who know me. It's how the hell did your team beat this Ohio State team? It does put sort of a big question mark on that. But the exclamation point has been Ohio State's performance over the first two rounds of these playoffs, Dan.
Yeah, I after the Michigan game, I said that was the worst coached game I'd ever seen. And most people agreed, but there are a few people like, it wasn't like a 42 point spread or something. But considering you built up to Michigan, I just had never seen a game so poorly coached. And in the two games since, it makes me feel better about that statement because this is the team we thought we would see. They remind me right now of Mike Tyson in his prime. They come out of the gate and absolutely swarm you. And they are throwing haymakers. There's no feeling out. There's no jabs. There is just, let's throw it to Smith. Let's throw it to Abuka. Let's run this. We are going downfield, full throttle, all gas, no brakes. Boom. And Oregon and Tennessee came out and that was the old line. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. They got punched in the mouth and it's over. You can't, obviously you're not going to have a knockout. You're going to play all 60 minutes, but the games are basically over 3 possessions in. And that's what Ohio State looks like to me right now. They've always, really since the Nebraska game, had a tremendous defense. And that was, I always thought, hey, they could, if they get the offense figured out, they'll be fine. Even against Michigan, great defensive performance. But that defense is still just as good, if not better. But the offense now is there's no more, we need to establish the run, or we got to show how tough we are, or we got to do this. It's just, we've got the best players on the field, get them the ball.
Yeah, exactly right. And so do you think that the staff did do a self-scout after the loss to Michigan and said, what the hell were we doing? Let's screw it. This is the way we should go about it. And Tennessee and Oregon have been the on the business end of that. Do you really think that's what happened?
I don't think they needed to have a self-scout. I think it's pretty obvious they should have said, what were we doing? And I think that Chip Kelly and Ryan Day are offensive coaches. And Ryan Day has built his program in a little different way than Urban Meyer, and certainly a different way than Jim Tressel. He has recruited and built a program designed to beat SEC teams in the playoffs and have the athletes and the firepower to do that. Now, the sport has changed because of NIL and the transfer portal, and the best teams are not all in the SEC. But that used to be the case 5 years ago when he was really putting together the program and saying, what are we going to be about? We have to beat LSU. We have to beat Alabama. We have to beat Georgia. We have to beat Clemson. And to do that, we need athletes. Michigan is the thorn in their side because you build a program one way and then you say, oh, this 1 week, we're going to be the toughest team in the world. We're going to be tougher than Michigan. It's really hard to be tougher than Michigan. It's just, they're really, really tough team. And so that doesn't work. And he's too far in his head and all the stuff we've already discussed. But now that he's freed from that, because there ain't no maize and blue in this thing, they're not showing up. And now it's like, hey, we've got these guys. I remember just quickly last year on signing day, sure, Ryan Day is standing at the podium announcing the signees, right? You get to talk about each kid. He's going to be great. We got this linebacker and all that. And Jeremiah Smith his paperwork hadn't come in until the middle of the press conference. And so per NCAA rules, you couldn't talk about him until it comes in. And there was a little bit of like rumors. Could he stay at Miami? Could flip him at the last second, or Florida State. It was a little tense. And Ryan Day's at the press conference and he gets word that Smith is signed. The paperwork is in and he can now talk about him. And he did this little like bent his knees and like did this like fake like faint almost and like this huge exhale. It was kind of funny at the time, but as you watch this kid play, you can see that it wasn't a joke. It was like, oh my God, we're gonna be fine. Like because as good as the other guys are, he's unbelievable. He's uncoverable. And so you watch and you go, bang, this is that team they've got right now.
And the other guys aren't just his current teammates. I think you can throw Marvin Harrison Jr. and Garrett Wilson and
Smith
Chris
and
Olave and JSN in there. Like you could really throw those guys in there, and that's how much of a difference maker this kid is. And he is the one. You made the terrific analogy of Tyson in his prime. He's the haymaker. He's the guy with the brass knuckles. That guy.
He's the haymaker. And what was with Tyson, what was so exciting was obviously he could knock you out at any moment, but it was also he'd just show up. He wouldn't even like have a robe on, right? He'd just walk out there and first punch would be a left hook to try to knock the guy's head into the third row. You're like, what is this? Isn't like boxing. They're supposed to feel each other out. No, feeling out. Oh no, we're going right to you. They know the cornerback's nervous. The cornerback wants to settle in. Now we're not letting anyone settle in. We're going right at you with the best player. And there's no getting, it's the same thing in basketball. Get the other teammates involved, right? LeBron, Steph, you control the fourth quarter, but look at the other guys involved. They're like, nope, we're going to get up and we're going to show you we have something you can't, you're not going to do anything with this guy. And then you got to cover 2.5 dudes over there. And then we'll go to our other array of talent, or we'll run the ball really well. And then you've got this defense. I mean, Caleb Downs, Jack Sawyer, these guys are terrific. So right now, this team is the team to beat. It isn't even close. It's kind of funny. Ryan Day came in with the expectation of hey, I got to keep my job. And now he's won 2 games, and now it's switched all the way to, well, you better win the national title. Like the pendulum swings on this poor guy. Yes. He comes in with no confidence. Now he's like, oh no, everyone thinks I got to win it. But hey, I'd rather play with that deck of cards than anyone else.
No doubt. Champagne problem there. I've got Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show. Texas is next up for the Ohio State juggernaut. Quinn Ewers came from the Ohio State program. Fascinating matchup on paper. The question is, do you feel that Texas has what it would take to slow down Ohio State and maybe make it not their day again?
Probably not, but I want to see it. They do have a very good defensive line. And can they get pressure on Will Howard? Can they disrupt the offense that way? Texas, to me, has a million good players. They have so many good players. They are good all over the field. I don't know how great they are in certain places, and that includes Ewers. Ewers has moments where you're just like, that's not it. And then you have the 4th and 13 against Arizona State. Whole season on the line, his legacy on the line, everything on the line. They're about to lose to the Sun Devils, and he recognizes and reads the blitz. He switches. If you rewatch that play, they'll show the highlight all day. He switches his offensive lineman to make the right pass blocking, and then he looks off the safety, and he drops a perfect pass to basically win the game, save the game. And you look at that and you go, that's an NFL player right there in every single way. And then you watch the other things and you go, man, maybe they should be playing Arch Manning. And that's why Steve Sarkisian plays Quinn Ewers. He checked out of a play into a run against Clemson that was a critical play. He does certain things. But there's also, look, this isn't a team that you think, hey, they're going to put 49 points up and win a shootout against Ohio State. I don't know if they have that. So their defensive line has to come up big. If you can do that, and that was something that Michigan did on their own right. It wasn't all Ohio State playing terribly. That Michigan defensive line was tremendous, and it stopped the running attack and did some things. That's what I got to see. But if Ohio State is at all cylinders, they're going to be fine. If Texas can be Buster Douglas, who ironic or coincidentally is from Columbus, Ohio, then they're going to have to play a whale of a game.
Well, I mean, you mentioned how many good players Texas has. You could make a case one of their best players is standing on the sideline. I mean, throw an Arch in this mix too. I know you got 2 quarterbacks. You don't have any. And I know behind the scenes, Quinn Ewers is getting advice from some people in NFL ranks to say maybe you should stay in college, and thus he would know he'd have to get in the transfer portal because Texas is going to move to Arch next year. And I know that that's a lot of stuff playing behind the scenes, but uncorking Arch on Ohio State, where you can't game plan for it, or you do your best until you get see him. Maybe that would be an interesting semifinal twist. What do you think, Dan?
They have used him for his legs. He's a terrific runner, and if you haven't watched that, he's played some games. You would not believe that he's Peyton and Eli's nephew.
Yes. Nice. Yes.
A Manning, wheels on the Manning, but Cooper was a college receiver until he got hurt, and then he Arch credits his mother for his athleticism, so it's very funny. But they did not use him against Arizona State, and so it's an interesting. And then you have this really interesting dynamic. You have a guy in Quinn Ewers who's now led Texas to a 4-team playoff last year and the Final Four this year, and they won the Big 12. They made the SEC championship game. By all accounts, incredibly successful college career, and probably about 60% of the fan base and 100% of the 99% of the reality is, you need to hit the transfer portal or play so well in these last 2 games that the NFL says, yeah, we'll take you. He may not have a future in Austin. Very unusual situation because he's been extremely successful as a Texas quarterback, and he's got that hanging over his head, yet doesn't seem like it affects him. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but they're still winning. That game against Arizona State was incredible, so dramatic, and it's survive and advance. Doesn't matter how you look, you're there. You got your chance against Ohio State. Game's going to be in Arlington, Texas. Texas doesn't back down from anyone. Like I said, they have really, really good players at every position on the field. I've watched them twice live this year, and they're just a really good football team. They don't have that elite talent that Ohio State does. Will that be the difference?
Dan Wetzel, a few minutes left with the national columnist for Yahoo Sports right here on the Rich Eisen Show. The 3 teams remaining on the other side of the bracket, the team with the best chance to make the finals, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame. Where would you put your marker there, Dan?
I hate to do this. I got to see what happens today.
Got it.
How is Gunnar Stockton as a quarterback for Georgia? I mean, kid's never started a game. He was okay in that SEC championship game. He's coming in for Carson Beck, but we have seen backups do really well in college football. It's not like Georgia they don't recruit bad players, right? People are like, oh, the backup. They think it's like a high school with socks are falling down or something. Like he's a good player. So I got to see that, or I got to see how Notre Dame's offensive line handles Georgia. And so that would be, what we go there. Penn State's really solid, and we very well could end up with a rematch of Penn State, Ohio State in the national title game. If Drew Aller is not making mistakes, that team absolutely can beat either Georgia or Notre Dame. That side of the bracket will be very, very interesting. That semifinal. I like this Penn State team, and it would be very interesting if we just end up with an all Big Ten final.
Yeah, Tyler Warren's he's the real deal, man. Like he's going to be an absolute beast in the next level. A beast. That
touchdown catch he had was so. I really all respect both the Boise and Arizona State. Like at the beginning of those games, it looked like they were going to lose 50-0. They got jumped. Say didn't Oregon couldn't come back. Boise made it a game. They made it competitive. They were the lesser team, but they had a chance to pull an upset. And there was that one play where Aller hit Warren in the back of the end zone, and it was NFL quarterback to NFL tight end. And the Boise State player did everything he could, and it's just one of those, hey, what are you going to do? They've got these guys, we don't. And that was really, I think, what other than a penalty or two here or there, that was the critical play of the game that kept Boise State from kind of being in it right at the end and maybe forcing something. So if they play their game, they got a nice running attack. They got some momentum. You see how happy those guys were after they've won. They are having a good time. This playoff was built for teams like Penn State that might not have qualified or didn't qualify for a 4-team playoff or a 2-team BCS, but you give them a chance, you get them rolling. They got 2 wins under their belt. They got a lot of confidence, and I think they're going to feel really good going into this semifinal.
Well, then, before I let you go, Dan Wetzel, how did the first few games hit the College Football Playoff Committee? The first round games were total blowouts, absolute blowouts, and Oregon fans today are lamenting. Obviously, if they weren't nearly in the same realm as the Ohio State, they would eventually have to face them or somebody who would knock them off and have a similar problem. But they're not happy that they had to face Ohio State at a neutral site in their first game. And there's already folks saying maybe the teams with bye weeks should get a home date themselves, that it would make things more competitive. Would certainly, maybe you come up with an idea where the bye week teams don't have to be conference champions, that you actually rank them. Notre Dame could get away with being an independent team and still having a bye week, that sort of thing. How do you think the first, I guess now 7 games of the college football playoffs has hit the College Football Playoff Committee, Dan?
I throw Tennessee in there too, as getting kind of unfairly seeded because of the way this thing worked out. That Tennessee team, I'm sure they're sitting there going, "See, we weren't that bad. Look what happened to Oregon too." Ohio State is just Ohio State. I think the obvious things are, and then they can probably get rid of is the seeding. It's not that Boise State and certainly Arizona State was properly seeded. Arizona State was fine. They lost at double overtime to the 5 seed. So it's not like there was a big problem there. Boise State was a good team. I thought they put a very good effort. And I think they should be really proud of how they did and how they atoned for themselves. But were they really the 3 seed? No. So getting rid of that for those spots in the conference championship. And this playoff system was created when there were 6 leagues, or 5 power leagues. And so you were looking at it like, well, there's the Pac-12 still existed, and we'll get a really good team in. The Big 12 hadn't switched out. So if you looked at it normally when they designed this, the top 4 seeds by conference champion, if you went back to the old conferences, would have been Oregon as a Pac-12, Ohio State or Penn State, whatever, as the Penn State as the Big 10, one of those two. And then Texas would have been a Big 12 team. And then you'd have Georgia. So it would have worked out a little bit better. But getting rid of that home field, maybe they get a home game in the first round, like they can be 7 and 8 or something. And then I think they have to go to quarterfinal home games. You saw the tickets, it's a softer ticket market. You're asking a lot of fans. If Ohio State is in Eugene, is that a different thing? You got to reward the regular season. You got to make the regular season matter. That's what they talk about all the time. Regular season, best regular season in football. And then Oregon goes out and goes 13-0, and they get nothing for it. They got a bye, but they also had to play an extra game that Ohio State didn't. So they've played the equal amount of games. So they got absolutely nothing for this except a neutral site game against Ohio State. So there's a couple quick fixes. Now the Bulls are going to fight like hell to say, no, we don't want to give up the quarterfinals. But to me, the first round and the quarterfinals absolutely should be on campus for a variety of reasons. And those are a lot easier to fix than some other stuff. I'll tell you what I have not seen. We need to expand and get more teams in. I haven't seen that. That hadn't been the issue. We got enough teams. Like there's probably 6 to 7 teams that could have really advanced in this tournament. And that's fine. And then the other ones kind of sort themselves out. So we're good with 12.
Last one for you, Dan Wetzel. I appreciate the time you've already given. And I believe it's the only time I've ever asked another human being this question. And I don't know how often you've been asked it, but here it goes. What happened in the Cheez-It Bowl, Dan? What happened in the Cheez-It Bowl?
It was fantastic. A Cheez-It Bowl near coach fight.
So being held back on Bret Bielema. What the hell happened here?
Dude, when you're playing for Cheez-Its, sometimes you gotta throw down. Sometimes someone's gotta get hit. It's just the way it is. You gotta walk in, knuckles up, So what happened was, if you watch a lot of football, when they kick the ball in the end zone, they do this bar T, they call it, but the guy basically extends out his arms like an airplane. And it's a signal to the team, the coverage team, that we're not going to return the ball. It's not officially a fair catch because you don't have to fair catch in the end zone or if the ball's going to go over. It's a courtesy. I'm sorry, South Carolina did the bar T, but then caught the ball and then threw a lateral and tried a fake play. And Bret Bielema, the Illinois coach, got fired up that the ethics of the bar T had been violated. And so he goes over during a injury timeout and mocks Shane Beamer thought it mocked him by doing the bar T in front of the Illinois sideline. Bret said I was mocking everybody. So he was ready to fight them all. But Beamer got upset. He was going after him. That said, did you if you at the tail of the tape here? I'm not sure you really want any part of that.
He cheesed it. He cheesed it at the very end. That's what he did.
Bret B didn't look too concerned, and that's no shame on B. You need to be a very big man to make Bret Bielema a little concerned about a fight. So we had to dust up in the Cheez-It Bowl. That's what we want. We want our Cheez-It Bowls fought with this kind of. Let's get a power slap table out there. Let's set up an octagon. Whatever we got to do.
Let's go.
Whatever we got to do.
Let's do it.
Power slap. We got a power slap fan here.
Oh yeah. Well, Brockman loves the power slap. Certainly when you can combine Cheez-Its in it. Oh, we lost Dan. It's all good. Okay, there we go. I guess did we run out of time with him? He cheesed it at the very end.
Power slap out.
Boy. Okay, there he goes. Normally, as you know, I have.
Well, you're gonna have to call Dan.
Goodbye. I'm gonna have to call him and say the goodbye right there. Yeah, say the goodbye. Fun stuff right there with Dan Wetzel. Lots to chew on. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.